Hey friends, it is Friday and we are here covering chapter 4 of Blink. So again, lots of great feedback. Thank you for all of the views and the comments and just the overall keep it going. Really, this is for you guys. Again, I know we're all moving at crazy warp speed every day of our lives, no matter what we do. And if I can help you get some personal development in your life, that's what I'm here to do. So again, Blink, we're on chapter 4. If you have not watched the other videos, or maybe you're just catching up midstream, if you go further down in my page, you can see all of the previous chapters. So, and I'm already thinking about the next book, so don't you worry about that. Stick around for at the end of the video, and I'll let you know what I'm thinking about. So, chapter 4 starts off by explaining a commander in the military who was asked to be a part of a war game. And the test was to see, so there was a blue team and there was a red team. And the blue team was equipped with all the technology you can imagine. They were strategizing with statistics and everything, you name it. They had all the data. And then the red team, which is where the commander, Paul Van Riper, was the commander-in-chief, he was the enemy in this war game, and they were supposed to take him out. And they're like, we've got it. We've got all the technology. And as you read the chapter, they talk a little bit more about Van Riper's philosophy and why he's always been so successful. And it gets down to not bogging down his troops with too much information, letting them act instinctively and allowing them to make those snap judgments, what we've been talking about, thin slicing, so they know how to attack their enemy. There's a lot of discussion about how when we have too much information, too much data, and we're plugging and plotting and trying to make, we've got the problem and then we're plugging and plotting and trying to make the decision, too much time has passed. And Van Riper's explanation is that when you're in a war, in a combat situation, you don't have time to do all that. You need to act and you need to be confident in your decision. So there's a lot of other examples in the book of when this might be the case. So maybe in an emergency room situation and doctors have to quickly make a decision about a patient who's being rushed in. And there's a lot of discussion about a hospital in Chicago that in the late 80s, early 90s didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of resources and they were overcrowded. And they had to make a lot of quick decisions in trying to decide, is this person having a heart attack or not? Now, there's a lot of discussion in the book of, okay, well, doctors are trained professionals and they know this information. They should just be admitting folks. But the problem is that the hospital couldn't afford to keep people if they truly weren't having a heart attack. And there was a test done and an algorithm that was run that there were 3 pieces of information that doctors needed to have so they could make the correct assumption. Now, you could argue that an algorithm is not smarter than a trained physician or vice versa, and that's not the purpose of this example. But the purpose was that there are patterns. There's always patterns when we're data collecting, we're taking in information so we can make a snap judgment. The 2 biggest lessons that I'm going to read from the book here, the 2 biggest lessons in this chapter are, number 1, truly successful decision-making relies on a balance between deliberate and instinctive thinking. So if you remember in chapter 3, we were talking about the car salesman who, even though he's making snap judgments in his head, he pushes all of those aside and knows that everyone's going to have the same opportunity to get a car as the next person. And the key there is that he knows when to put the brakes on. The second lesson is that when you take a complex problem like a patient coming in and may or may not be having a heart attack, the person who made this algorithm, they took the most complex problem and reduced it to its simplest elements. Because even the most complicated of relationships and problems have an identifiable underlying pattern. So very interesting. So I was trying to think, okay, so I'm not a doctor, I'm not in the medical field, I don't sell cars. So how does this apply to me? How does this apply to the real world, to my real life, maybe to you? And I was thinking about it this morning because I finished the chapter last night, and I was thinking about it. There's a lot of times maybe you're out shopping and you have a ton of options to pick from. You have a hard time deciding because maybe you know you can only walk away with one piece of clothing. And when you have 10 in front of you and you like all 10, it's really tough. But what happens when you only have 2 choices or maybe only 3 choices? There's an example in the book of when maybe you're at a market and they have jam for sale, right? You're at a farmer's market. They did a test where one booth had 3 types of jam you could pick. The other booth had 10 types of jam that you could pick from. The booth that had more jam, 10 jams to pick from, only 3% of the people who stopped by bought something, where the folks who had less choices bought 30% of the time. Interesting. If you've got kids or if you've ever been around young children, you know that there's a point in their life when they're like around 2, maybe 1.5, 2, definitely 3, where you only want to give them 2 choices. Every book you read, everything you hear, and I found that worked for us, is that you don't give them 5 choices for dinner, you give them 2. Would you like chicken nuggets or would you like a hot dog? They pick. Because when you start introducing a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th option, it just like all hell breaks loose, right? Can't make a decision. So I thought that was interesting. We are moving on to chapter 5. Again, we're going to pick up again on Tuesday. So if you've been listening on Audible, awesome. If you've been reading, awesome. We're doing Blink. As we get through, we're already halfway through the book, which is awesome, cranking right through. I am thinking that my next read, so I have 2 options. I'm going to ask everyone to vote. And feel free, please comment below if you have an opinion. Number 1 is Conscious Culture. Number 2 is You Are a Badass. And if you've not heard of either book, these are great reads, great finds. So comment below with what book you'd like me to do next. But don't worry, we still have a couple more chapters in Blink. We're going to be picking up on Tuesday. Comment below, like, love, share. I know some of you out there are reading this book for other purposes, so please share. Let everyone know that I'm doing these summaries online, really just to help you out there and give you that little Cliff's Notes version and think about the content in a different way that relates to you in your everyday life. So thanks again for your support. Have a great Friday and a very great weekend. Bye.